The story starts with the scene of a doctor who was stained with blood because he murdered his coworker. This mad doctor is called Jisoo, and he didn't feel sorry for what he did at all, because right now he was trying to cure his daughter, who was lying still. Jisoo thought that soon he would be done with the experiment he did in order to make his daughter go back to the way she was before. And now he hurried to inject a liquid he made into his own body. Not long after that, the police arrived and told Jisoo to stop doing his insane experiment because it had taken more than 100 lives. However, Jisoo was firm about his position, so he said that he would soon be done with improving his experiment, and he asked for a bit more time. The police thought Jisoo was risky, so they had to shoot Jisoo. But when the police were going to catch Jisoo, something surprising happened because suddenly a powerful earthquake happened, which left the whole world in pieces. And at that time, Jisoo was smashed by building rubble. 3 years have gone by. Now the whole city has been ruined because of the earthquake. What's worse, the rain never comes, which makes the city even more dry. Then there was a man named Choi Ji-wan, who was a hunter. He saw that there was a swamp crocodile, but it had left its home because the water was very low. Ji-wan thought the crocodile could be food for his group, so he tried to hunt the crocodile with his arrow. But surprisingly, the crocodile was still alive, and now it attacked Ji-wan back. When Ji-wan was scared by the angry crocodile which tried to bite him, suddenly Nam-san came and easily beat the crocodile with his bare hands and a stick which he was holding. After that, the scene showed the life of the people who are still living. To get a bottle of water to drink, they have to wait for hours. And they had to trade their precious things for food, like Ji-wan was doing now. He told people to line up and trade their precious things for the crocodile meat that Nam-san caught before. Here, a hat is more valuable than gold or jewelry. This can be seen when a woman, who used to be a rich person, tried to trade her fancy jewelry for crocodile meat. But instead of giving her crocodile meat, Nam-san gave her a desert snake that he caught because the jewelry was so useless in the current situation. Now, Nam-san lived with a group of people, and he was close to a young woman named Su-na and her grandmother, whom Nam-san thinks of as family. Nam-san also gave crocodile meat that he caught for free to Su-na and her grandmother. Su-na seemed to think of Nam-san as her older brother, and she gave the painting she made to Nam-san. It made Ji-wan feel a bit jealous because Su-na never gave him the painting. Not long after that, a group of gangsters came. They said that they were looking for a crazy person. Then they quickly arrested people there for no good reason. Then they saw Su-na, the young woman, so they were very keen to take her. Ji-wan, who liked Su-na, tried to stop and fight the thugs on his own. But because he was outnumbered, Ji-wan became the target of the thugs, making Nam-san, who at first didn't want to deal with them. Here, Nam-san easily made the gangsters scared. Even when the gangsters found out that the person who made them all confused was Nam-san, they ran away in fear because Nam-san was a legend that people were afraid of. After that, Nam-san and Ji-wan were going to their place. They saw a group of nicely dressed people were trying to persuade Su-na's grandmother to move to their place, with the promise that Su-na would be sent to school and given proper facilities, food, and lessons. Even though Nam-san was doubtful of those people's offer, he couldn't do anything because he wanted to see Su-na could live a better life, unlike where she is now. Su-na, who thought of Nam-san as family, asked the group to take Nam-san too, but they said that their priority was teenagers and a family of one blood like Su-na and her grandmother. This was not possible, making Su-na, with a sad heart, have to leave Nam-san and Ji-wan. As well as Nam-san, he had to agree to not be with Su-na for the sake of her future. Before leaving, Su-na gave a painting to Ji-wan, which made him feel happy because it turned out that Su-na had cared about him all this time. At night, when Su-na and her grandmother were on their way, Su-na saw that the group that took her had also brought a teenager the same age as her named Chu-yi, who came from another area, along with her father, mother, and also her grandfather, making Su-na happy because she quickly became friends with Chu-yi, who was the same age as her. After walking for a long time, young Nam, a person from the group that brought Su-na and the others, suggested that Su-na's grandmother and also Judy's grandfather should go to their clinic first because they looked tired. Without any doubt, Su-na agreed, but she started to feel something weird because the car that picked her up was not far from there. Su-na's doubts were right because instead of taking her grandmother and Judy's grandfather to the clinic, they were taken to a valley to be killed. By chance, Nam-san and Ji-wan saw this happening because they were hunting nearby. Both of them were very mad because they thought of Su-na's grandmother as family, but she was actually killed in a very bad way. Nam-san, full of anger, quickly attacked the two people who had killed the grandmother. But oddly, the two people were able to live and get up, even though their bodies were broken many times, making Nam-san and Ji-wan puzzled by what they saw. Soon after, a woman named Eun-ho came to help Nam-san and Ji-wan. Eun-ho seemed to already know how to beat the two people by breaking their heads. After beating the two people who had killed Su-na's grandmother, Ji-wan felt that Su-na was in trouble, so he asked Nam-san to help her right away. But they couldn't forget the grandmother, so Nam-san asked Ji-wan to wait while finding out what really happened. At last, that day, Eun-ho told them about what happened and her reason for looking for Nam-san. Because after the world was ruined by an earthquake, she, who was a military leader, and her friends managed to find an apartment that was still strong and there was a source of water. So she and the people who still lived fixed the apartment to live in. Not long after that, someone came. He said he was a doctor, and he was Jaisu, the mad doctor in the early scene. At first, Jaisu's coming really helped them because he was a doctor, but one day his bad plan was found out because he used teenagers aged like Su-na as a test object. But it turned out that Yeon-ho's friend, Surgeon 1, had worked with Jisoo because he was tempted by the experiment which could make the body live forever. He had no other choice but to run away from the apartment, leaving behind his faithful helpers who were still there. Yeon-ho asked Namsan to help her save her partners. Namsan now knows why Su-na was taken by those people, so he wanted to save her. But the place is full of trained military people, so it won't be simple. Also, those immortals could only be beaten if their heads were broken. Because of that, Namsan was wondering how to get in there. All of a sudden, he remembered the drinking water that was brought by a group of robbers, which may have had a link with Jisoo. When Namsan went to the robbers' camp, there was a fight between a group led by a bald man named Tiger and other robbers. Seeing Namsan's coming, Tiger asked his enemies to join him to beat Namsan in return for giving them half of his slaves. But easily, Namsan with Ji-wan and Eun-ho beat everyone. After that, Namsan quickly questioned Tiger, who looked tough but was very scared of Namsan. Tiger, the leader of the group, then told the reason he had drinking water. It was because he always traded the water with a teenager to Jisoo. Tiger also said that Jisoo really wanted a teenager Su-na's age. Hearing this, Namsan asked Tiger to take him to Daesu's place. Of course, Tiger said no because that would hurt him. But seeing Namsan, who was so angry, Tiger was so scared and quickly agreed to Namsan's ask. Meanwhile, Su-na had got to the apartment and still didn't know that she would be used as a test object. She looked very happy with the conditions there, which had clean water and a nice place to live. But still, Su-na felt a bit doubtful because her grandmother didn't come. Not only that, the people there really thought of Jisoo as someone who must be honored. And soon after, Yeonam then took Su-na and Ju to the 8th floor because students like Su-na would stay there and only once a week could visit their family. Su-na, who had not met her grandmother, at first rejected this, but young Nam said that everything had been agreed by Su-na's grandmother, so Su-na had no choice but to follow young Nam. When Su-na reached the 8th floor, there were many students the same age as her, but she was a bit shocked because the students looked to be cold and had no reaction to anything. Then Su-na also felt doubtful because every student had injuries under their ears. Meanwhile, the lessons taught by Yeon-nam sounded like a dogma so that the students would give up themselves for Dr. Jisoo for the sake of a better future. Because of this, Su-na becomes more and more doubtful. However, Ju-yi seemed to have been brainwashed because she even offered to help Daitsu's research. After that, the soldiers came to hand out drinking water so that the students could quickly drink it. Su-na, who was now beginning to secretly doubtful, didn't drink the water. On the other hand, Gaitsu's experiment was still not flawless because the soldiers who have been given the serum had to keep taking the serum every day because otherwise they would turn into zombies. Jisoo said that he would soon complete his experiments because now he had Ju-yi and Su-na as experimental material that would make his research perfect. Meanwhile, at night, Su-na was doubtful and secretly left her room to see what was really happening there. Then she heard Jisoo talking to Sergeant 1 about Judy's parents, who demanded to see Judy, who is currently being experimented on. Hearing that, Su-na then ran to Guy's room to rescue Judy, but not long after Dr. Jisoo came with Judy's parents. So Soon now ran to hide without any care or guilt. Jisoo told Judy's parents that he did experiments on Judy so that everyone could live. Then Jisoo showed his daughter even though she had lost some of her body. She could still live. Of course, seeing their daughter being used as an experiment, Judy's parents right away became crazy and tried to save Judy. But this actually made Judy die. Because of that, Jisoo, who thought that Judy was a useful experiment, quickly killed Judy's parents without pity. Then, when Jisoo was going to leave, Jisoo actually saw Su-na, who was hiding. With his scary look, Jisoo smiled because he would make Su-na the next experiment. After being caught, Su-na was still awake, then asked why Jisoo used teenagers her age as experimental material. Hearing that, Jisoo explained that only teenagers like Su-na's age could be used as experimental things by taking pituitary gland liquid, but with the condition that before, they had to drink water that Jisoo had changed. On the other hand, Namsan and the others had now reached the apartment entrance. With the help of Tiger, they could easily enter the apartment door without having to fight. However, because Tiger was so scared, the soldiers on guard were doubtful. So Namsan had no other option but to use force. By driving the car, Namsan broke in and ruined the soldiers on guard. After reaching the apartment lobby, with the help of Eun-ho and Ji-wan, Namsan quickly fought by ending the soldiers who were trying to stop his way. However, Tiger, who looked strong, actually hid because he was afraid of the current situation that was happening. After the three of them managed to enter, they went straight to the basement to free Eun-ho's subordinates so they could help them. But it turned out that all of Eun-ho's subordinates were no longer human because they had been experimented on by Jisoo. Actually, they were all like zombies who didn't know anyone, making Eun-ho only stay quiet because she didn't think this awful thing would happen, while Namsan and Ji-wan had to hurry to be Eun-ho's friends, who were now no longer human. At first, Eun-ho just stood still, but luckily Ji-wan made Eun-ho notice to kill her subordinates because they no longer had a chance. Eun-ho finally understood the situation, and she, with Namsan and Ji-wan, managed to beat all of those zombies. Not long after, the three of them heard Jisoo talking on a speaker, asking them to stop and leave right away if they wanted to be safe. Of course, Namsan right away answered that he would not leave until bringing Su-na. After that, the soldiers who already saw Namsan and the others' location were seen coming to catch them. Here, Namsan was very angry and right away made the soldiers fall when he blew up a bomb carried by one of the soldiers. However, because the soldiers kept coming, Nam-san told Ji-wan and also Yeon-ho to go first to look for Su-na, while he alone was going to fight the soldiers. Nam-san, who was alone very cruelly, right away walked over to the soldiers. Nam-san ended them one by one, and after that, he right away went to the water storage room. In that place, there were many parents of teenagers who were working. Here, Nam-san said that he came and only wanted to bring Su-na, and if the parents wanted to see their children, then they had to hurry to help their own children. On the other hand, Ji-wan and In-ho were going to the 8th floor and were right away stopped by the soldiers, but luckily, In-ho and Ji-wan managed to beat them. Asked Ji-wan to go alone while she was going to face Sergeant 1. At last, Sergeant 1 arrived, making In-ho, who had a personal hate. In-ho, at first, did well in making Sergeant 1 confused, but because his body had gotten the serum from Ji-soo, all the deadly attacks that In-ho did looked useless. And at last, Sergeant 1 hurt Eun-ho and made her fly out. At the same time, Ji-1 had now gone to the 8th floor, and he aimed the gun at young Nam, asking her to tell him where Su-na was. Ji-1 also told the students there to right away go to their parents. But on the way, Ji-1 was stopped by Sergeant 1, but luckily Nam-san was seen coming and told Ji-1 to right away save Su-na, while he was the one who was going to end Sergeant 1. On the other hand, Ji-soo had taken Su-na's pituitary gland liquid, and he right away put it on his own body. But Ji-soo actually had another effect, because Su-na never drinks water that has been changed, and become ugly like a monster. After a while, Ji-wan came, but he saw Su-na was in danger by Ji-soo, so he couldn't do anything. And suddenly, he was hit by a woman soldier and fell down. At the same time, Ji-soo felt that the apartment was no longer safe as a lab. He told young Nam to keep his daughter in the suitcase. At the same time, the fight between Nam-san and Sergeant 1 is still happening. Nam-san, who is very strong, is made trouble by Sergeant 1 because he can live again, even though his body has been broken many times. But Nam-san is already good in the world of wrestling, at last doing well in beating Sergeant 1 by taking Sergeant 1's head from his body. Nam-san quickly ran to help Ji-wan. When Ji-soo and the others tried to escape, Nam-san shot young Nam, who got hurt right away because she did not get the serum like the others. Ji-soo, who saw this, did not help her, but threw a bomb into young Nam's room. Ji-wan, who saw this, used Su-na's bed as a cover so that he could live. Because of that, Ji-wan and Su-na lived through the blast, and they were saved by Nam-san. Meanwhile, Ji-soo was outside and wanted to run away, but he met the parents who asked where their child was. Because they got no answer, the parents joined and beat Ji-soo. It also broke the liquid that was freezing Jisoo's daughter. Seeing this, Ji-soo, who was now half-beast, got mad and grabbed the weapon that was nearby and killed everyone there. Eun-ho, who was still alive, came with Su-na and Ji-wan. They told Ji-soo to stop because this was not what his daughter wished. But instead of being sorry, Ji-soo wanted to kill them all, making Nam-san have to shoot Ji-soo dead. After all of this, the living people can see the children. While Su-na, Nam-san, and Ji-wan thanked Eun-ho for helping them. Soon after that, the rain was falling, showing that now their life will be better. Su-na then asks Nam-san and Ji-wan to go home and visit her grandma's grave. The last scene then shows Nam-san, Ji-wan, and Su-na, who are now hunters like before. Don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications to catch more videos like this. Thank you for watching.